Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Can we get serious now?
One thing that did happen during the 60s was some music of an unusual or experimental nature did get recorded and did get released. Now look at who the executives were in those companies at those times. Not hip young guys. These were cigar-chomping old guys who looked at the product that came and said, I don't know. Who knows what it is? Record it, stick it out. If it sells, all right. We were better off with those guys than we are now with the supposedly hip young executives who are making the decisions of what people should see and hear in the marketplace.
Success in the music business begins with a dream, a vision. This podcast will give you, the listener, the insight and tools to turn that vision into a reality. Meet the industry professionals who work day by day behind the scenes, helping to make those dreams come true. Welcome to the business side of music.
I'm not going to say we're practicing social distancing because of the COVID-19 virus, because this would just be too far out of the way. But joining us from Punta Cana, Dominican Republic, Denis Hiller. Denis is the co-founder and label manager of No Face Records. They're a popular electronic music record label. They're on a mission to elevate the next generation of electronic music artists. Denis, welcome to the show.
Hey, Bob, it's so good to be with you, and I'm really excited to be on the business side of music podcast. So thanks so much for having me.
Hey, we are glad to have you. Before getting in the music business, you actually were an entrepreneur in the tech industry. You formed two successful companies, of course, in what we call the Silicon Valley here in the United States. What were those companies about?
I was on the founding team of a company, and this was years ago because I've been in the music industry for more than 10 years now, but I was on the founding team of a company called Anchor-Free, which was one of the first VPNs in the world as it's known. So, and basically what a VPN does is, let's say you're in a country where a certain website is blocked, CNN, Netflix, whatever the case may be, you change your VPN and you sort of trick the system into thinking you're somewhere else. So that's what we did. And then I ended up starting another company called ULoop, which was for college students. I won't get too much into it, but basically in the college space. And then around 2008, I just got intrigued with the entertainment space, electronic music. I was in San Francisco at the time. Right place, right time. We went really deep into the underground electronic music scene. Electronic music 2 years later blew up in the U.S. and sort of rode that wave. Yeah, and here we are.
The electronic music scene, I have to say it's probably a topic of conversation we don't get too much into. Where are things at with the electronic music scene? I know it's big. You see it in movies, you see it in television. It has its own chart. Where is that scene at these days?
Bob, I'd say it's really unique as a scene, right? So from the standpoint of in every other music scene, the music producer is sort of a behind-the-scenes studio rat kind of person, right? Whereas in electronic music, producers are in many cases the artist. Of course, we have vocalists. So that adds a different dynamic. And also the fact that the live performance typically is recorded music because it's a lot of DJing. So you have this community of support where, you release a track and other artists are playing and that leads to certain things. And that's sort of the electronic music scene in a nutshell. And the other thing is because vocals, I would argue, aren't as important necessarily as, let's say, country music and some of the other genres out there. It's a much more international scene. So if you look at our label, No Face Records, or any other label in the electronic scene, frankly, the reach that we have is very, very international, and the artists we're signing are international. We release currently 3 singles a week. We only release singles, no albums. You'll sign artists from India, Philippines, US, Canada, South Africa. I could go on and on and on. It truly is a worldwide movement.
With the electronic music scene, I remember years ago, probably in the early 90s, I was in Europe touring. We were doing some dates in Italy, and we actually started, I want to say, 9 or 10 o'clock in the evening with our show. And these were major acts that we were touring with. We wound up ending our show around midnight, and then this whole electronic music scene started. The place was packed, a couple thousand people, and the music went on till about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Is that kind of the norm, that these things these types of events start late at night and just go on?
That's a good question. So there's two types of events. It always tends to be a party or a large scale festival. But if you look at, your experience in Italy, there's two types of events. One is, in Corona, there's no events, right? But typically there's two types of events. So one is the Italy or Ibiza or Las Vegas style nightclub experience where you start late at night, you end in the morning. Like, for example, in my city of Miami, we have a really great venue in downtown called Space, and they have a terrace on top of it. And so it's open 24 hours a day, if you can believe it. So people will get there late at night when they're done doing everything else in town, and they will go up on the terrace and literally chase the sunrise. And you'll just hear this really great music right up until the sunrise. And then on the flip side, you have day parties, which tend to be at the pool, in the beach, in the mountains. Something like, if you look at Las Vegas has Encore Beach Club over at the Wynn Las Vegas. And so you have that night dynamic, but also you have the day dynamic, and they're a little bit different.
You've actually touched on something that we've discussed with agents we've had on the show over the past month or so. You just mentioned a lot of great venues. Some of them, I've been at in Las Vegas and in Miami. How is this pandemic? How's it changing the indie music scene? At least, how are you as a label? How are you guys seeing it?
Let me put it to you this way. There's different types of labels, right? Like, for example, you have the majors or very, very big indies who are obsessed with signing an artist of a certain caliber, and that is their business model, and they're negotiating these big terms and arenas and options and all this stuff. We're so downstream, if you want to get corporate. We have signed some big artists, but for the most part, we sign very new artists. In other words, our claim to fame is that we respond to literally every demo we receive. So 50 to 200 demos is what we're currently getting a day. And we respond to every single one, and sort of created the label that we wish existed when we got into the scene. And we don't look at social numbers. And my point is that we work with a lot of upcomers, probably 90% of whom weren't touring in the first place. So for them, oddly enough, they're actually benefiting from all this, in that what the heck is the difference between you and an artist who is making millions of dollars when all of a sudden you're both sitting in your living room making music? On the other hand, if you want to talk about the business as a whole, it's very bipolar from the standpoint that if you're in streaming, if you have any sort of membership club, like we have an educational arm, you're doing fine. If it's anything internet based, right? If you Spotify, all that, doing great. On the other hand, live entertainment sadly has been decimated. Like, I was just reading that the UK has a rescue package for their live entertainment venues, theaters, all sorts of things. So it's really, really bizarre. Like, we were getting ready to do what's called a label residency in Ibiza summer 2020, where we'd have a night at a nightclub in Ibiza, and people would come in and our artists would play and all that other great stuff. And that was thrown out the window. So that affected us and the rest of the scene. But I would personally argue that we're probably not as affected as many other players, from the standpoint that we never really depended on live touring. Live touring was really the icing on the cake. Our bread and butter is, what we get excited about is exposing the internet to that kid living at their mom's place and signing their first track, and then other bigger labels noticing and saying, oh wow, let me go sign this person.
So I'm going to back up a second. At the beginning of this part of the conversation, you said you receive, and correct me if I'm wrong, 50 to 200 demos a day?
You better believe it.
How do you get through all those? I mean, is there a certain fleshing out that you go through, or do you have a staff that can spend the time to listen to these? How far into each track do you get into before you decide to get all the way through, or put it off to the side?
That's a good question. So we are a team of 10. Okay. So we are an indie, but we're not the biggest in the world, but we're also not the smallest in the world. We're a team of 10 distributed remotely around the world, which actually also benefited us during all this, because we were remote from day one. We thought, who wants a boss hanging over your shoulder? And so that's the way we started. And we do have a music studio in the beautiful Dominican Republic, where I am right now. And we have a little office in Miami. And otherwise, we have people all over the world. I just want to make that clear. And our A&R team is, 3 people strong, between Max Vangeli, who is my business partner and a longtime international DJ DJ, producer, etc. So he really knows what sort of the world is looking for. And then we have a couple of other very talented folks, a gentleman in Paris, Pierre, and then we also have a gentleman in Miami. So point being, we have a team. The thing is, we not only listen to these demos, Bob, but we get back to every demo. In other words, the reason why we started this label is because Max and I reached a point where, I'm not going to say rolling in Ferraris or anything like that, but we were financially independent enough where we could create the label that we wish existed, one that gets back to every artist demo, that gives you feedback, that even goes further, because the demo is the end of a creative process. The beginning is what you're doing in the studio, which is why we spend so much time on Instagram, on the blogs, etc., teaching music production, music theory, and the business of music. But to answer your question, we try to go through every demo, but frankly, if we hear, we can spot a track that's sort of off in about 10 to 30 seconds. So if the mixing and mastering isn't there, if it's not playable in a nightclub, if it's not radio friendly, whatever the case may be, we can spot it pretty quick. We do try to go through, give tracks the benefit of the doubt. But if it gets to the point where it's like, look, there's no way we're going to sign this, then we're in email mode and we're saying, hello, Bob from Tennessee, great track, but here's what we change. And, that's, I believe as an indie, 50 to 200 demos a day is a lot, but I believe we have that number simply because we really focus on the community aspect and giving before we get.
You also, from what I was looking through your show prep notes, you don't do long-term deals.
Nope.
Do you sign more based on the track, or do you sign the artist, the composer of that track, or are there options there? Or?
Yeah, so we have exactly the same deal with every single artist. You send in a track. If we like your track, we will sign that record, and that's it. There's no options. There's no long-term deal. There's no anything. And to us, that's incredibly important because we have over a decade of experience, my co-founder and I team working in this space. So we have some really great relationships, which means we are an influencer as a label. And there's much bigger players out there like Armada Music, Spinnin' Records, which was recently acquired by Warner Music for like $100 million. Our goal isn't to hoard the music. Our goal is to sign the artist and then get them out elsewhere. But what's interesting about that, and also we don't want to handcuff, you know what I mean? We're an artist-owned label as well. So we're not trying to handcuff anyone. And so we literally, if we like your record, we'll sign that track, release it, and then you're out of your deal. And if you want to keep working together, you have that option. If you want to go on DistroKid and become a totally independent artist and not work with the labels at all, be my guest. If you want to sign a deal with a major, go ahead. But what I've found, Bob, is that by doing that, by giving artists the freedom to run their own artist and their management, the freedom to run their own career, they keep coming back to us, and they keep coming back to us, not because we have a gun or a pen, or handcuffs or anything like that, but because there's just the respect of, listen, we're here for you. We're here for the next generation of electronic artists. Run your career, and they seem to want to come back, and we really appreciate that.
So it's no life plus 20 record deal?
No, not at all.
We're going to take a break, get a word in for our sponsor, and when we come back, Denis Hiller is going to be sharing some more of his knowledge with us from the Dominican Republic, I should say Punta Cana in the Dominican Republic, with No Face Records.
Hey everybody, this is John Schneider, and you are listening to the second most listened to music business podcast out there with Bob Bender on the business side of music. What on earth is the first most listened to?
You're listening to the business side of music.
Hi everyone, I'm Larry Butler, and I want to send you a free digital copy of my new book, The Singer-Songwriter Rulebook, 101 Ways to Help You Improve Your Chances of Success. That's right, everything you need to know to launch your career as a singer-songwriter, all based on my 40 years in the live performance arena, and believe me, I've seen it all. In my book, you'll find the 10 things you have to deal with before even thinking about becoming a singer-songwriter performer. You'll also learn about the 5 things every singer-songwriter can do this weekend to make their live show better. 5 things I can guarantee that you are not doing already. Plus, there's tips on songwriting and staging, photo and video shoots, publishing, merch, dozens of other topics, all written for people who don't particularly like to read. And again, it's free. Just go to the Business Side of Music website homepage and look for my book cover. Click on it, and a free digital copy of my book will be yours. I'm Larry Butler, and I approve of this message. Thanks.
You're listening to the Business Side of Music.
Back with us. I guess I could say sort of across the pond from us, but it's really more of across the Gulf of Mexico and in the Caribbean. Denis Hiller with No Face Records in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. Your label, I like a lot of the things that you have to offer to the artist. First of all, I kind of joked about the Life Plus 20 recording contract, but that stuff is so much out there with so many different record labels. Yours sounds pretty easy to get in and out as needed and flexible for both. But you also have a thing called No Face Academy, which is really an education arm and a distribution service, I guess.
Yeah, so the two really lend themselves to each other. We never thought about education, honestly, beyond just putting out content and teaching electronic producers and artists more about music production and the business of music. But what's interesting is when we started getting more demos, because obviously 50 to 200 is a lot, and it seems to be growing every month, and we're excited about that. What we realized is, look, some of these records are not signable. In other words, there might be something off with the record, but the idea could be fundamentally really, really good. So we thought, wait a sec, we have so much knowledge on our hands because we have all of these artists that we're working with around the world. Some of them are on touring level, some of them are making lots of money, some of them are quite new, and they're signing with us and other labels, et cetera. And we thought, well, can we go deeper? And can we help people whose music isn't yet label quality? Can we help them get there? So what we did is we created the No Face Academy. The way we do it is there's, free trial on the site, 15 days. And after that, it's $9.99 a month. That's all it costs. Netflix prices, basically. And what we have is a few things. First of all, our A&R team is involved, which means every member gets extensive, or every student gets extensive feedback on their music. So they love that. On top of that, we have a distribution service. So think DistroKid or CD Baby, but very specific to electronic music. But the difference is when you join a DistroKid or a CD Baby, there's no quality control. In other words, you just take a track and put it out there, whereas our A&R team is very much involved. So if you make a record that we don't feel like is sort of industry quality, we'll say, let's stop you right there and really finesse this record. And then we have some of our artists who have very generously are working on one-on-one sessions with artists for insanely reasonable rates, honestly, as low as $15 a lesson if you buy in enough bulk. So we're obsessed with pricing things reasonably because we know our market and we want to reach as many people as possible. And then, you have other sort of services within the service like mixing and mastering, et cetera. But the goal is to get artists from the academy to signing to either No Face or other labels out there. And we have a history of doing that. We're passionate about it. We are just about to hit 200 students worldwide. And, my goal over the next year is to get us at 1,000 plus. That would be pretty amazing.
That would be a good number to reach. We talked about what producers and artists can do, and especially with the lack of live touring, we're all looking at other opportunities, other options out there. Is there anything we haven't discussed in that aspect yet?
First of all, it's really sad, the situation going on with so many people getting sick and, some people dying, et cetera. So obviously that part of the pandemic is really not good. On the flip side, I actually think it's kind of good that we all got a break from the standpoint of, I have friends who were doing 200 shows a year, and that's not healthy. And they never had a chance to reflect and say, who am I? What's going on? Et cetera, et cetera. So from that standpoint, this pause isn't the worst thing in the world. But as far as what artists can do, so a couple of things. First of all, any sort of teaching, any sort of putting out tutorials, et cetera. That's a way to monetize, and it's also a way to give back to the community. There's a lot of live streaming. If you look at Twitch, which is owned by Amazon live streaming service, there's a lot of that, and that's monetizable. podcasting is up, etc. So, without live touring, it's tricky for folks, but I have seen artists doing well as far as making money from Twitch, making money by educating folks, putting out videos, putting out content, etc. And this will get a lot easier when touring is back, but I would say the internet can definitely be your friend in the interim. And also, one other thing I should say is there's more attention out there than ever before because people are sitting oftentimes bored, sitting at home, working, etc. So the kind of meetings you can set up, the kind of conversations you can have, the kind of networking you can do right now is better than it was before all this started.
We've had this conversation a few times. This is the perfect opportunity to take that deep breath, kind of gather your thoughts, get back to home base, and really focus on what your next step is. What about electronic music sync licensing in film and television? Is that an area that your company goes into?
It's funny. We never intended to because of the kind of music that we're putting out, which is artists who are either very advanced but oftentimes quite new. We didn't have a pitching department or anything along those lines. It just never really crossed our minds. But we are inadvertently getting into it. And what I mean by that is because of YouTube and Twitch specifically, we're getting into it. So here's what's going on. So if you're a major label on so there's a lot of creators out there, right? So there's people who are streaming or making videos of them playing games and they're getting millions of views, okay? Literally video games. There's people making cooking tutorials where they're like, here, let me show you how to make this fancy omelet, etc. And there's music they're playing in the background. The thing is with the major labels and most of the scene, they either do takedowns or they don't let you monetize, which is the lifeblood of any given YouTuber or content creator. They've got to monetize. So the thing is, we started, and we didn't do that. We just kind of had this philosophy of if we simply put the music out there and let them do their thing and monetize, as long as they're linking back to us in the descriptions and following, music usage policy, we have no problem with it. And so now we're getting hit up by more and more of these folks. It's turning into conversations with video games and certain others because of the exposure that they're giving. So at the moment, it's not, syncing and licensing isn't a huge part of our business, but I have a feeling because we're willing to give that music away to the right influencers for exposure that it's going to create more conversations because frankly, electronic music is just kind of made for games especially.
I'm watching this video, and it's this guy making a diorama of a subway system, and he's using little HO train cars, and he's kind of showing the process. And I'm kind of when it comes to woodworking and things like that, I'm a total geek, and I love that kind of stuff. Love to see how people can build things. And the music he had on there was so not fitting to what the video was. And this video was like 10, 12 minutes long. And I kept thinking, this video would be so much more fun to watch if this guy had the right music with it. And that's what's so important. And I think that's where electronic music fits in perfect with, so like you said, video games or different types of TV shows. And they're all looking for content all the time.
Yes, there's so many subgenres within electronic music in that there's these sort of big room tracks, as they're known, where it's for a festival or 8,000 people and it's big and it's larger than life. And on the flip side, you have ambient music, which is there, but it doesn't even feel like it's there. And you're so right. I mean, you don't think of YouTube videos or other videos scoring or music as important, but it is a critical component because you're right. If you put the wrong track, it just feels weird. It just feels off. It's the wrong mood. It's like if you put an uplifting, happy record in a horror movie, it just wouldn't work.
Or maybe it would. Who would know? We're going to take another break, get another word in for another one of our sponsors. With us today, Denis Hiller, the co-founder and label manager of No Face Records in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic.
This is Rick Caballo with Dead Horse Branding, coming live from Nashville, Tennessee, and you're listening to the business side of music with this crazy guy, Bob Bender, hosting this show.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Hi, this is Tom Sabella, the creator, founder, and co-producer of the Business Side of Music podcast. It's loyal listeners such as yourself that make our podcast successful. Take the time to sign up for our weekly newsletter. Not only does it contain information on upcoming podcast episodes, but also informative tidbits on the music industry and even bonus items that we give away. All you have to do is sign up at businesssideofmusic.com and we will send you Larry Butler's new singer-songwriter rulebook. That's it. All you have to do is go to businesssideofmusic.com, sign up, and we will send you Larry Butler's new book. Thanks to all our loyal listeners. We love you.
You are about to witness the most amazing man-made jewelry ever created. The original multicolor mood ring. This is the ring that senses your deepest feelings. Scientifically developed, the incredible chroma stone senses thermal changes deep within your body, reflects all your mood changes in a fascinating kaleidoscope of color, responding to your deepest secrets, your most hidden emotions. The beautifully crafted multicolor mood ring reveals your subconscious feelings in a myriad of breathtaking color, from black to brown, yellow, green, to the most desired shade of violet blue. Discover the mysterious powers of the multicolor mood ring in elegant gold or silver tone settings. Dare to wear the original multicolor mood ring with the fascinating chroma stone. Only $5 while supplies last.
You're listening to the business side of music.
Back in the studio, Denis Hiller, the co-founder and label manager of No Face Records. You have in 2021 this music production crash course, hopefully, if things keep playing, to study music production in paradise. Is that on track?
It is on track, and let me tell you. So there's a there's a private community sort of next door to Punta Cana, which is called Cana, which is the same thing, just a different ownership essentially. 7 minutes from the airport, beautiful marina, boats. I mean, it's spectacular, like golf courses on the water. It's incredible what they built. And they really support music, culture, all of that. So what we're doing in July of 2021, and it's so convenient because it's only 7 minutes from the airport. Fly in, do your thing, get out. So anyway, so we're setting up, as you mentioned, a summer music production crash course, which means all of our students, we have over 40,000 electronic music producers and artists involved in this thing, if you can believe it. We sort of put out energy into the universe and said, hey, listen, if we do this, $499 a week plus travel expenses, who's in? And the response was incredible. We have people signed up from Kazakhstan, from Russia, from the US, from Canada, from China, from India, all over the world. It's ridiculous. And what it is, I think experiential tourism is a big thing right now.
Explain that again.
Sure. So let's say before, once upon a time, we'd all just go on vacation, right? You'd go on vacation and come home. Now, thanks to social media, you have these niche groups that can form, which never could have formed before. Like, for example, a few years ago, I wanted to learn Spanish, okay? So I went to Colombia and I went to a school where for tourists who were learning Spanish. And there were all these people who were obsessed with, learning languages and all this. And we had this very custom experience. Or for example, if you're learning to code, if you want to become a computer programmer, you can fly to Prague and join a code camp for 2 months where they just cram code, down your throat and just give you a crash course. And we thought, let's take that same concept. In other words, everybody has a budget to go on vacation. People want to go on vacation, especially after all of this is over. And so we're doing an intensive program where they're going to get a lot of music production, music theory, music composition, the business of music, very important. And they're going to get it in this beach setting. They're going to enjoy, they're going to play some shows. We have deals with nightclubs in the area. We're just going to make it a really, really good experience. And so people really like that concept where it's like, yeah, okay, I can go on a vacation, but at the same time, I get something from it intellectually, connect with like-minded people, and just have a really great time.
So if you're interested in music production, this is a great course. How does someone like myself sign up for this?
Very simple. You go to nofacerecords.com. You can contact us that way. It's that we're just launching a separate page for it. Honestly, we just put out the energy in the universe through our emails and Instagram, but we're creating a little section. But you can go to nofacerecords.com. You'll find all the info shortly, and you can sign up that way or contact us for more. And anybody who is tuning in, if you've been dabbling in FL Studio, Ableton, Logic, whatever digital audio workstation and you feel like you're into electronic music and you don't know where you stand and if your music is at the quality, etc., send us your demos at nofacerecords.com. Our promise to you is that we will listen, and not only listen, but get back to you within 2 weeks or less, thanks to our hardworking A&R team. And honestly, we'll all get through this together and hopefully come out of the side stronger and better than ever.
Getting back to this, sending the demo, you'll critique it, help point them in the right direction, give them some advice on really what their next steps are.
Exactly, 100%. So we get demos and there's totally different feedback. And we did this because most demos, now labels are changing and I hope we've influenced that. But labels didn't used to do that. You know, labels were cool. It was cool, aloof at a distance. And we prefer to be warm and welcoming rather than cool, very community based. And so we get back to you with all sorts of feedback. It might be, hey, this is a great record, let's sign it. Best case scenario, or hey, listen, record's good, it's not mixed and mastered, so be sure to send it out, or use our, whatever you want, mix and master this thing. Or maybe, hey, listen, good idea, but X is a problem. And people really appreciate that because it's rough, honestly, when you've been working on a project for a month, you think it's great, you send it out to 50 labels and you get nothing, and you're like, man. What's the other thing, Bob? Honestly, the social network that I'm the most excited about out of all of them is Discord. Discord is something that started for gaming, but now everybody's using it. And basically what it is it's like old school chat rooms, but very modern. And initially gamers were using it, but we applied it to the label, and a lot of other people in music are doing the same, and it's wonderful. So imagine you have a chat room and you have different sub-chats. So for example, and we have currently 1,400 producers, artists, listeners, everybody's in there, and it's only growing every day. And that is really important because outside of the energy and feedback and content that we're giving as a label, people are connecting with each other. So you have our artists coming in and out of there all the time. You have a collab section where people are looking for collab partners, so they're making music in real time. You have a feedback section where people are giving each other feedback, self-promotion. You have, a chat in English, you have a Spanish channel, French, Dutch, and we're adding more languages. It's just something like, okay, look, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff, it's great, but nothing beats person-to-person contact and building relationships. And, speaking of what people can be doing in during Corona times, join these Discords, hit people up on LinkedIn, email, reach out to people. Now's such a great time.
And that's discord.com.
Discord.com, and if you want to join our Discord chat server, if you go to our website or any of the socials like the No Face Instagram, and you click the link in bio, as we call it, you'll see it right there. Join. We have a great time.
And we'll make sure to include your social media links into our show notes.
Thank you.
Dennis, thanks for being on the show. This was great.
Bob, thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
The Business Side of Music is the creation of Tom Sabella and Tracy Snow and is produced by Bob Bender. The Business Side of Music is recorded at Music Dog Studios in Nashville, Tennessee. Production sound design by Keith Stark. Voiceover and promo by Lisa Busan.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.